Hey, my name is MusicBot, and in this video I will go over all the weapon ability perks that you can get on dexterity based weapons. I will also be giving my opinion on which ones are the best and which ones are not so good. These weapons are the spear, the bow, the musket, and the rapier. I would like to give a shout out to Studi and Ambrosia24 on Reddit for making this really nice visual that I can use to go over. But first, what is a weapon ability perk? Certain weapons come with passive upgrades to specific abilities. They can be obtained when you loot chests, when you kill an enemy, or when you craft and you make a weapon with that specific perk, if you have the corresponding item. So let's start off with the rapier. The rapier has an ability called Tondo. It's the ability where you slash, it does damage, and it applies a bleed to the target. King Tondo increases crit chance by 11% against targets affected by Tondo's bleed. I don't think that's a very good perk, considering it's only an 11% chance. Later into the game, you have what, 10% crit, perhaps, or 15%. Adding 10% crit to it is not that good. Let's move on to the next one. So, Energizing Flourish. Gain 19 stamina on a successful flourish. Flourish is the ability on the rapier that when you hit somebody, it staggers them. You can follow up with a light attack to perform a finish, which will consume all rapier bleeds and do a certain percentage of damage on the target. Gaining 19 stamina on a successful flourish is okay. It's better than a King Tondo. So if you find a rapier with Energizing Flourish and you're going with the blood side of the rapier tree, then this might be okay. Leeching Flurry. Each hit of Flurry restores 28% of the damage as health. So Flurry hits 5 times and it does a lot of damage if you land every hit. Gaining essentially 150%, a little less than 150% of the damage is pretty good if you can land every hit, which is kind of hard. Let's say in PvP, if people are moving around, it's kind of hard to do. But if on a PvE character, on a PvE type of build, that's pretty good. You gain a lot of health back. Sundering Riposte. Riposte grants 14% Rend for 10 seconds. Honestly, this is an amazing skill because if you land a Riposte, which is, in my opinion, it's pretty easy to land because a lot of things are telegraphed by NPCs and by players. You gain 15% more damage on the person you land the Riposte. That's pretty good. I would if I find a rapier with Sundering Riposte, I would take that 100% of the time. If I'm running Riposte, which I probably am running Riposte. The next ability is Omnidirectional Evade. Evade is a quick little sidestep where you become invulnerable and you can cancel any action that you're in the middle of. The Evade tree has an upgrade that evading forward does 15% more damage, but usually you don't want to evade forward. You usually want to evade to the side, because if you evade to the side, the character goes around the person to their back where you can critical hit. What this allows you to do is every time you evade, you gain 15% bonus damage on your attack. And if you're playing the rapier correctly, you're usually most of the time behind the character that you're trying to kill or damage. So 15% damage on a critical hit, that's pretty good. I would take Omnidirectional Evade a lot of the time. I know a lot of people disagree with me. I mean, a lot of people think that Evade is not that good, but in my opinion, I will show you eventually that Evade is really good. Next, let's go into Refreshing Fleche. Hitting a target with a Crit Backstab reduces ability's cooldown by 19%. I think this is a pretty good ability because most of the time, again, with a rapier, you want to be behind the target landing crit stabs most of the time. If you land even one crit backstab, if like, let's say your opponent messes up, or let's say is an NPC, you can get behind them very easily. You will get 20% or 19% of the cooldown back. In my opinion, that's really good because you can fleche. You can fleche and then hit them with a backstab, and then shortly after you can fleche again and keep on repeating it. Let's move on to the musket. So the musket is a long range weapon. You don't want to be too close with this weapon because of the long reload time. Crippling Powder Burn. Target hits with Powder Burn are sold for 23% for 5 seconds. In my opinion, this is a great skill because Powder Burn is the best skill on the musket. It does 300% of weapon damage over the 8 seconds that it's burning. If you land it on a headshot, it does even more because that'll burn for 13 seconds. And the fact that you're slowing them, that means that you can kite them better. And if you go Powder Bird, but then you also go the trapper tree of the musket, that allows you to get more damage per shot on the person who is slowed. Right, so that's, in my opinion, this is a great skill. If you find a musket with Crippling Powder Burn, you always take that musket. That musket must be better than a lot of the other muskets that you can find. Let's go into the next skill. Refreshing Power Shot. Power Shot kills reduce this ability's cooldown by 18%. I don't think this ability is very good because how likely is it that you're gonna kill something with Power Shot? Maybe in the wild, this is more of a PvP ability than this is more of a PvE ability than a PvP ability. Most of the time you want to use Power Shot when they're full health anyways, and they usually won't kill a player or high level mobs that way. So this is not a very good skill. Let's go into the next ability. Empowering Shooter Stance. Hitting a target while in shooter stance grants 22% empower for 3 seconds. Basically, you gain 22% more damage for 3 seconds if you hit somebody while in shooter stance. I'm not sure if this stacks, but if this stacks, this is a pretty good ability because shooter stance allows you to shoot faster than you normally would. And if you get the second upgrade on that ability, you gain 5 shots. This allows you to, if you are landing your shots on the target, to gain considerably more damage. So if you're speccing into the sniper tree of the musket, I would definitely recommend that you get Empowering Shooter Stance if you can find it. Energizing Stopping Power. Gain 37 stamina on a kill with Stopping Power. Again, how likely is it that you're gonna kill something with Stopping Power? Stopping Power only does 102% weapon damage. That's not that great. And how often is it that you're gonna be low enough stamina to benefit off of 37 stamina? Accelerating traps. Increase movement speed by 19% for 3 seconds after deploying a trap. I think this is one of the best abilities, one of the best weapon ability perks, because landing a trap slows you down for a little bit, but then gaining that movement speed back is pretty good for kiting enemies, even if you don't land the trap. 3 seconds is the duration of the stun of a trap. So I think this ability is pretty good. Mending Sticky Bomb. Gain 28% of your max HP on a kill with a Sticky Bomb explosion. This is strictly a PvE ability. You're never gonna kill somebody with Sticky Bomb in a duel or out in the open or in a war. That's never gonna happen. So this is just to keep your HP up if you're out in the wild and grinding mobs. So now let's go into the spear. Bleeding Sweep. Sweep is the ability on the spear that knocks enemies down in a area in front of you. Sweep's coup de grace applies a 9.3% weapon damage bleed for 4 seconds. If you want to get a little bit more damage on the spear with your sweeps, you usually always take sweep. You would always take this spear above a lot of other spears. Sundering Javelin. Javelin applies a 19% rend for 10 seconds. Javelin is a skill where you throw the spear and you pin an enemy down. This is a very good weapon ability perk, because almost 20% damage for 10 seconds is pretty good on an ability that is almost guaranteed to land all the time, since you can stun somebody and then land a javelin right on top of them. Very point blank, close range. Leeching Cyclone. Every hit of Cyclone heals you for 31% of your weapon damage. I don't know how good this perk is, since it's healing you for only 31%. I don't know how many times Cyclone actually hits, and what the ability does is only push enemies away. It doesn't stun them or do anything like that. They can easily dodge into you again and continue hitting you. So healing you for 31% is, I don't know how good that is. Fortifying Perforate. Gain a stack of 9.3% Fortify for 6 seconds per successful perforate hit. That's the ability on the spear that where you hit 3 times an enemy in front of you. If you land all 3 hits on perforate, that's a 27% fortify for 6 seconds. In my opinion, this is a very good skill because when you're going perforate, you usually are not going with too many defensive abilities, and gaining that little bit of extra defense is pretty good. Enfeebling Skewer. Skewer hits apply 14% weaken for 8 seconds. This is one of the better weapon ability perks because 8 seconds is a pretty decent amount of time. 14% weaken is a pretty decent weaken. They do less damage to you. And this is on the ability where you lunge at a target dealing damage. And Keen Volt Kick. Volt Kick increases random crit chance by 18% for 5 seconds. This is also decent, not too great. It's only 5 seconds, so it's only a few attacks that you have to gain 18% more crit chance on, but because it's 18% crit chance, I think that's very significant. It's almost 20% crit chance, and you have 10% later in the game, so that's like around 30%. That's pretty good. Now, last but not least, let's move into the bow. Enfeebling Poison Shot. Poison Shot arrows apply 14% weaken for 4 seconds. I'm not sure whether or not this is the poison of the poison shot or directly landing the arrow itself. If it's directly landing the arrow, this is not very good. But if it's the poison itself, that would be very good because 14% weaken for actually 20 seconds would be pretty good. Even though it has 4 seconds, every tick of the poison would apply. So it's 20 seconds of the poison. But I'm assuming that it's just the direct arrow, and landing the arrow itself is pretty hard. So I don't think I would recommend getting a bow that has Enfeebling Poison Shot on it. Energizing Evade Shot. Gain 18 stamina after hitting a target with Evade Shot. Honestly, this is a very, very good skill because Evade Shot, you usually take Evade Shot on every build for bow. And landing Evade Shot is not that hard. I've seen many gameplays of people doing PvP, and it wasn't that hard for them to land Evade Shot because you usually use it as somebody's coming in and they're in the middle of an attack. Fortifying Rain of Arrows. A successful rain of arrows grants 19% fortify for 6 seconds. This is a decent weapon ability perk since landing it gives you 20% damage reduction, which you're usually vulnerable after landing a rain of arrows. But landing a rain of arrows is kind of difficult. What people usually do is they use the rain of arrows on themselves. This allows players to land the ability better at the cost of melee attackers being on top of the player, and granting fortify to take less damage would be really good. So there are some pros and cons to this ability. Penetrating Rapid Shot increases the armor penetration of the final rapid shot arrows by 19%. This is just a 20% increase in damage, usually. This skill, this weapon ability perk, how good it is depends on how good you are as a player. If you can land the final shot consistently, then this is good for you. If not, this is not that great. Refreshing Penetrating Shot. Penetrating Shot kills reduce this ability's cooldown by 14%. Usually you're not going to kill a player with an ability. It usually doesn't happen. So this is more of a PvE ability. Empowering Splinter Shot. Don't mind the typo. Empowering Splinter Shot hits grant 19% in power for 10 seconds or until the next attack. If this stacks per arrow, you can get up to 5 arrows with Splinter Shot. Then the next 5 attacks have 19% in power, which is pretty good. But if this is only for the next attack, or let's say you gain 100%, if it doesn't stack, then this is just okay. Landing a Splinter Shot gives you 20% in power. This is just okay. And with that, we have gone over all the weapon ability perks for dexterity weapons. Tell me in the comment sections down below which ability perks were your favorite and what are you going to build when New World releases. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and follow me on Twitch if you want to catch some of the streams and you want to hang out. Twitch.tv/AMusicBot. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.